The Raptors' winning streak ends at 3 after a pretty resounding loss here to the Dallas Mavericks. But the big question will be, who are the real Raptors? Is it the team that looked so impressive in that 3-game win streak, or is it the team that faltered so mightily in the second half of this one? Let's break it down for you in tonight's post-game show. As a reminder to everybody, we do content like this for every Raptors game, so if you want to see more just like it, get subscribed to the channel. Keep up to date with all the content that we have here in the Amateur Hour Production Network. And if you enjoyed what you see from this one along the way, please make sure you have hit that like button. It does go a long way to helping us in that YouTube algorithm. But the Raptors looked like this team was for real in the first half. Ended up taking a 1-point lead into halftime against the Dallas Mavericks, but did not sustain itself for the second half, particularly the third quarter, where the Dallas Mavericks score 40 in the third quarter, only to our 25, and do take that 14-point lead, a lead that they would take into the final seconds of the game before RJ Barrett hits a consolation three, let's say, to turn it into an 11-point game. Defensively, things were decent in the first half. There's only so much you can really do playing against Luka, Doncic, and Kyrie Irving, especially with the pieces at the disposal of this team. But where the Raptors did thrive was forcing turnovers, getting offensive rebounds, and generating extra possessions. Now, Dallas in the second half fought to combat these specific things because their offense was great in the first half, Dallas. They were just suffering the possession battle. As that was corrected as the game went on, Toronto found it more and more difficult to keep themselves at the same pace in this game, and as a result, can't quite keep themselves relevant enough overall and end up losing this one, and end up losing as well in the possession battle at the end of the day. From what started as Toronto really dominating the possession battle. They don't lose the possession battle, but it comes down a lot closer to where it was at halftime. So clearly a point of emphasis for the Dallas Mavericks is working on that aspect, and they're the better team. Now, what was interesting about this game is that markets around sportsbooks have come around in the Raptors a little bit. The Raptors were 1.5-point favorites against Brooklyn at home, which I thought was about fair. They were 7.5-point underdogs away at the Hawks, which I thought was a bit heavy. Then they were 5.5 underdogs against the Pacers away, which I thought was fair. And it came all the way down to 3.5 today in favor of the Mavericks, which I thought was fair. Dallas, good team, but Toronto are at home. But more respect coming to the Raptors here. We were wondering if that 3-game stretch was indicative of who this team is, if they are just a changed team after the All-Star break. And a game like this kind of gives you the question of, what is the real Raptors team? Clearly, we've seen this team being able to score tons of points since making the trades with OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam. It's getting stops that's the problem. That's really where today came down. Early on in the game, the Raptors had a lot of success doubling, blitzing Luka Doncic. He was putting up points, but he was doing so inefficiently. He was 4 of 12 in the first half shooting-wise. But in the second half, Luka kind of did his thing. He ends up going 7 of 11 from the field second half, gets a 30-point triple-double with 16 assists, 11 rebounds. Kyrie Irving, he was 2 of 4 in the first half with 8 points. He'll finish the game 11 of 20 with 29 points. So the Raptors were content to let other players beat them in the first half. Those other players showed up. And then in the second half, as those offensive adjustments were made by the Dallas Mavericks and Luka took over, the Raptors could not keep up here. So again, it's people are going to be down here because the Raptors lose by 11 after the 3-game win streak. You kind of have to feel that the 3-game win streak was a bit of an uptick beyond expectations for the Raptors. So, losing a game like this isn't too surprising, PJ Washington is a player who profited from the extra attention on Doncic and Kyrie. He goes for 23 points here. Tim Hardaway has a really big second half or second quarter and onward. 16 points for him. Gafford has always been a problem for the Raptors on the offensive glass. He gets 4 offensive rebounds, 13 points. Bench units for the Mavericks seem to have done really well overall. Yeah, the better team showed it today. Absolutely. And despite the Raptors' best efforts offensively, with an efficient 26 points from Barrett, an efficient 28 points from Quickly, 19 points from Barnes, they couldn't keep up. Barnes, 19 points, delivered on 7 assists, 3 steals and a block, filled up the stat sheet again, settled for too many threes. I think it's a third straight game now without a 3 made for Scotty Barnes. That's coming down. Hopefully get that back up. But, if it's not happening, just take less for me. Pirtle, another solid game. Not too much else he could have done. Trent, 11 points on 3 of 8 shooting. 2 of 5 from 3 is pretty much like what his season averages are. Again, Barrett quickly we spoke about. Positive offensive nights. Off the bench, though, the 4+1 lineup, which has looked good. I still don't like it. Today's game reaffirmed my stance on that. It's not really well-rounded enough to get minutes as the 4 bench guys plus Scotty Barnes. They go -14, -11, -12, and -10. Grady Dick, 10th straight game with a 3. That was good. Kelly Olynyk, solid offensive game, but struggled on defense. Bruce Brown, one of his comfortably worst games for the Raptors. And Abaji, after 2 straight positive nights, a not-so-positive one here. First half, as I said, it was a possession battle, domination for the Raptors. That changed, really. Both teams take 98 shots in this one. Dallas makes 6 more of them. Where the Raptors did have the edge, however, was on free throws. They did take 30 free throws to Dallas's 21, but they missed 10. And it kind of stings when you miss 10 free throws in a game that you lose by 11. RJ Barrett in particular, as well as he did play, he had 26 points. He left 5 of them at the line. He was 4 of 9 from the free throw line. So a touch of frustration there, but you have to feel as though Dallas were the better team, shooting 53% from the field, 35% from 3. Toronto wasn't any slouch on offense. They eventually go 47% from the field, 37% from 3. Possession battle-wise, like I said, Dallas came back, but they did commit 16 turnovers. That's a lot. Toronto committed 12. That's a lot as well. Probably should have cleaned that up. The Raptors allowed, I think it was 8 offensive rebounds in the second half and only get 2 themselves. It's kind of a wonder how the Dallas Mavericks got back in this game. Fast break points, 20-18. That evened out. Points in the paint also evened out at 56. Yeah, it's just one of those games where it looks like the Raptors got found out in the second half and didn't have the talent or maybe the adjustments made at all to combat that. So, this one is not overly disappointing, but we have to have a conversation on what's the real Raptors team. For me, that 3-game win streak felt like a bit of an uptick and a blip above expectations. And today's game, I don't even think they looked that bad overall. I think there's a lot of positives to take out of this game. And if you had one of these games before the All-Star break, you'd be like, yeah, positive performance overall. Maybe our expectations have changed on that win streak, but as I said, even after the game against Pacers, which marked the pizza party, don't go too crazy about just a 3-game sample size. It's a very small sample size. I think the Raptors look better post All-Star break, but maybe not quite good enough to really go on a run here. But if they want to prove that this team can be somewhat for real, the real deal, as Pacers coach Rick Carlisle described him as, there's still a decent run of games here to do it. The Warriors are in town on Friday. The Hornets are in town on Sunday. Warriors are on a good run. That's a tough game, but it's winnable. Hornets, you should win that game. Pelicans on Tuesday will be a real test. Suns on Thursday will be a real test. Then another winnable game against the Blazers. Tough game at Denver, then a winnable game against Detroit. So this stretch of games here, it will be great at defining the season for the Raptors. Now sitting 4.5 games back of the final play-in term position with today's loss, which is not yet noted here on the standings. But there's winnable games here. This will show us how good this team can be. This will show us who this team is. And if they seriously want to make the play-in tournament, yeah, you're going to have to, in these 7 games, probably pick up 4 wins. There's 4 winnable games in here at least. So can the Raptors go and do that? That will be the big question. But I don't want to be too down on this. I think there are positives to take away. We kind of expect some sort of these defensive deficiencies, but let's see how they respond going forward. Let's see how they come back. That Friday game, which team will show up? Is it the one that won 3 games in a row? Is that the team that's just who they are now? Or is it going to be more of the games like in the second half here where, yeah, we can play well, but even when we play well, it's not really good enough to compete with above average teams in the NBA. But that will do it for today. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this one, and get yourself ready for the next one. We do content like this for every Raptors game, so get subscribed to the channel because you don't want to miss out.